School shooters like Nikolas Cruz have been terrorizing the United States for decades, with no hope for change in sight. In October 2018, 17-year-old Nikolas Cruz opened fire using his AR-15 on Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, committing the deadliest mass shooting the United States has ever seen.
I think we got shots fired. Possible shots fired. 1,200 building.
He murdered 17 and injured 17 more in what was 6 minutes of pure horror, before fleeing and getting arrested an hour later. Following the shooting, disturbing footage came out of Cruz planning out the shooting and the chilling reasons of why he did it, mainly feeling neglected and getting nasty looks from other students.
I live a lone life, live in seclusion and solitude. I hate everyone and everything. With the power of my AR, you will all know who I am.
And get my AR and shoot people down at the main courtyard. Await, and people will die.
Clearly unstable, Cruz appeared in court looking very disturbed, even giving an uneasy apology where he didn't maintain eye contact with a single person in court.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others.
The court proceedings lasted for 4 whole years, with constant delays and uncoverings, such as the videos he recorded. And, after significant delays due to the pandemic, Cruz pleaded guilty in 2021. And after major hesitance regarding the death penalty, he was given a whopping 34 consecutive life sentences without parole, meaning his entire life ended before even graduating from high school. While some killers like Cruz are mentally disturbed, others are pure remorselessness. Like T.J. Lane, who opened fire on Chardon High School in Chardon, Ohio, killing 3 and injuring another 3, with one victim reaching the tragic stage of paralysis.
Chardon High School, we had shots fired, gunshots, multiple gunshots. 911.
Chardon High School, we need police up here. Was there someone in the building with a gun?
Yeah.
Something nobody would ever plan as they make their way to school happily in the morning. Lane didn't seem to have a single ounce of guilt or remorse, as he wore a sweatshirt labeled Killer as he terrorized the Chardon High School cafeteria. Apparently, Lane's massacre was all down to a high school romantic rivalry, but Lane's clear issues took it to murderous heights. His peers described him as a normal kid, but something was clearly going on, as he seemed to have issues since childhood.
We never saw them playing. Never saw them behaving like children.
After his arrest, it was his court hearings that really made victims' families and jurors' bloods boil, as he seemed to relish in his deed, taking off his shirt, revealing a t-shirt reading Killer, like the one he wore during the shooting. He seemed to have little care for anything going on, and even gave the finger to one of the victims' families, saying,
saying pull the trigger, the killer's done, masturbates to memory.
Lane's antics led to a quick trial, where he was sentenced to 3 life sentences without parole. But it didn't end there, as Lane somehow escaped custody in Allen Oakwood Correctional Institution and had to be recaptured a day later. Unlike Lane, though, some shooters do feel remorse. Like Caleb Sharp gave a genuine apology in court after his shooting in Freeman High School in Washington.
911, what are you reporting?
Someone's shooting at Freeman High School.
Someone shooting at Freeman High School?
Yes, it sounds like somebody's shooting at Freeman High School.
That's why I'm sorry. I'm sorry to this entire community.
In 2017, when 15-year-old Caleb Sharp suddenly opened fire with 2 guns, killing 1 student and injuring 3 others, psychologists believe it was depression and other mental issues that led to the shooting, but others argue it was simply pure evil. After his arrest, Sharp had to face something much harder than prison: the pain of the victims' families and parents, who were breaking down in court against their kid's killer.
You took so much from her, Caleb. You took her innocence. You extinguished her jovial personality, her ability to enjoy life without fear.
As Sam's only living parent, I feel very strongly that it's up to me to ensure that Sam is remembered for who he was.
Still, Sharp showed signs of remorse in court, as he apologized several times and gave a speech about his chance to speak to the victims' families.
I know these are just words, but I do mean them. And to that effect, I live my life.
Still, an apology will never nullify the horror of murder, and Sharp received 40 years in prison time, making him close to retiring age when he gets out, before ever getting to spend a day as a free adult. On the other hand, even when no victims are harmed, shooters still sign their own lives away, like Matthew Milby Jr., who terrorized Dixon High School in 2018, right before his graduation. In a terrifying video shown in court, Milby brought an Uzi to school when he suddenly opened fire on his PE teacher, Andrew McKay, who miraculously didn't get injured or hit physically, but the psychological damage is instant and long-lasting. Milby didn't stop there, however, as he also opened fire on a literal police officer, Officer Mark Dallas. Dallas and Milby exchanged shots before Milby was non-lethally shot and taken into custody. Thankfully, while no one was physically hurt, Milby's psychological victims are plenty, including Principal Jared Shaner, who had this to say.
As I thought of and received a text message from my daughter, who was locked in a classroom, scared to death, less than 200 feet away from where Matt Milby Jr. opened fire in our building.
In court, Milby stayed quiet until his apology as classmates and those affected gave statements in court, including Andrew McKay, who shockingly forgave Milby.
Before everybody here, including you, Matthew, I forgive you as a person. I don't hold any grudge against you as a human.
I cannot undo what I did, but I can take responsibility and apologize to those that were hurt by my actions. I'm sorry.
Still, after delays and several court proceedings, Milby received 30 years of prison time to ponder what he had done and how he threw his life away mere weeks before his graduation. It's bad enough when it's one school shooter, but two make the horror double tenfold. Next is Devin Erickson and Alex McKinney, who perpetrated the shooting of STEM School Highlands Ranch in Douglas County, Colorado in 2019. Erickson and McKinney entered their school with several guns hidden in a guitar case, and at around 1:53 p.m., they suddenly opened fire on their classmates. One absolute hero, Kendrick Castillo, tried to jump on Erickson to subdue him, but he tragically lost his life. Other than Castillo, 8 other students were injured in Erickson and McKinney's terror. This story is a complete head-scratcher, as it seemed like the two men had been planning this horror show for a while.
No one tried to stop anyone. No one forced anyone into this. We were both mutually agreeing. With
McKinney citing bullying for him being transgender as the main cause behind the shooting, as he suffered mentally and even planned on killing himself afterwards. Both killers had wildly different testimonies, with Erickson claiming McKinney threatened him to do it, while McKinney claimed they both planned it from the start.
How many shooters do you have?
Two. There's two, yeah. Why? He was making me give him one to stop, and then there's me. Okay. I was just supposed to watch it. Because it was only one he was going to let me live.
In court, body cam footage showed Erickson being tackled by the police and subdued, and even though McKinney seemed like the mastermind behind the operation, it was Erickson with the biggest blood on his hands from the murder of Kendrick Castillo. Erickson also allegedly had been giving hints about shooting up the school for a while, and he already had the biggest crimes on his conscience. Due to Erickson's age of 19 at the time of the attack as opposed to McKinney's 16, he was given life in prison without parole, with an additional 1,282 years, while McKinney received your average run-of-the-mill life sentence for psychotics. Other than schools, murdering university students is just as horrific as what was done by Nathaniel Roland. In Clarendon County, Columbus in 2019, 21-year-old university student Samantha Josephson made a life-ending mistake by entering the wrong car, thinking it was an Uber. But inside was the monster, Nathaniel Roland, who locked her in, kidnapped her, took her to an unknown location, and stabbed her 120 times to death. With Roland's house nearby, the description of the car led to his arrest. In court, the judge had no mercy whatsoever for Roland, whom he called a depraved killer, and showed genuine shock at Roland's brutality.
Ma'am, I'm not going to hear any claim of innocence. Okay. He's been convicted by the jury.
Yet, Roland still had the guts to deny his actions, despite his DNA being found all over Samantha's murder. A hint at how Roland came to be like this might have been in his mother, who tried to defend Roland in court, calling him a good boy.
This is a young man who went through high school,
college, played ball, acted in his church, never had anything against him.
But the judge wouldn't have it, instantly interrupting Roland's mother and holding Roland accountable.
He didn't do this.
Now, we're not going to hear any
yes,
claim of what he did or didn't do. Yes, he's guilty of murder. He's guilty of kidnapping.
Yes,
he's guilty of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime.
Maybe if he hadn't been given excuses like these all his life, Samantha would still be alive. Ultimately, Roland got what he deserved, or maybe even less, with life in prison. That's one thing Mum can't get him out of. Speaking of parents, nothing is more heartbreaking than a victim's parents in court. But these ones had to confront Gabe Parker, who took a handgun to Marshall County High School in January 2018, and after twistedly ensuring his own friends would be safe, opened fire in the school, injuring 18 people and taking the lives of Bailey Holt and Preston Cope. Then, 15-year-old Gabe apparently was completely lifeless and silent as he shot his classmates. Gabe Parker was arrested, and upon searching his house, seemed like he was an incredibly troubled teenager with a passion for the Communist Manifesto and Hitler's Mein Kampf. His twisted passion might have been the motive for his attack, as he claimed it was an experiment to see how society would respond. Gabe's lack of touch with humanity was challenged in court when he had to confront the parents of his victims, who called him remorseless, evil, and a worthless demon as he faced 14 first-degree assault charges.
She was the most precious, beautiful, and selfless soul on this earth, and you took her from us. Their parenting skills are obviously demented and have raised nothing but a worthless demon.
The thing we missed about Preston is watching him grow up to be the fine young man that he would have become.
Parker held off on admitting his terror for 2 years until he finally pleaded guilty in 2020, taking a deal for 2 consecutive life sentences with a possibility of parole in 20 years. Though the idea of someone this disturbed being released back into society at 38 after being hardened further in prison is terrifying.